3 higher ed authors, 100 plus college and university presidents, dozens of actionable insights for academic leaders. Commencement, the beginning of a new era in higher education, is now available on Amazon. Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to EdUp on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. Just like I say, as meant to many of you, that EdUp Experience is still kind of like a train wreck. We just kind of make things work, and we're going to do that today. We've got a president on the move. She's going to be talking to you literally. She moves from place A to place B. She's being Ubered or driven somewhere, but she said, let's do it. So we're going to do it. And I have a first-time guest co-host, and she and we've met and we've talked, and I've been waiting to see if she'll ever come on, and finally she's here. Ladies and gentlemen, my special guest co-host today, here she is. She is Violeta Tamayo. I'm gonna say, I knew I was gonna mess one part of it up. She's senior account executive at Lead Squared. She goes by Violet. That's how I know her. Violet, how are you?
Yes, thank you, Joe. So red leather, yellow leather. See, I couldn't even do that. But thank you so much for bringing me on. I'm just so glad that Douglas could not make it today. Okay, so I'm excited to be a part of this conversation with you and Dr. Chemene Crawford. So yeah, Violet is fine. Violeta, you hit it just perfectly. Thank you.
I need to say Violeta. I feel like if I say Violet, it's not doing you justice.
No. Actually, it's funny. My mom calls me Violet. So yeah, there's actually only half of my friends and family call me Violeta. So you'd be on either side. You're good either way.
We'd like to extend a special thank you to Douglas Carlson for not showing up today on Violet's behalf, right?
I think he's probably talking to our CEO about shortening his title. I don't know where he's at, actually. But I'm just looking forward to this. I'm so glad he couldn't come today.
Awesome. Well,
selfishly.
We're going to get to our president on the move, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to bring her right in because she might get dropped off in the middle of the episode, so we get to hear all of what's happening. Here she is. Let me introduce her. Hello. She's Dr. Chemene Crawford, President and CEO of North Seattle College. Chemene, how are you?
Good morning. How are you? I love those sound effects.
I'm good. How are you? I mean, you're on the move and you're podcasting at the same time. That's the ultimate definition of multitasking.
Absolutely. You have to do that to do this job. That's for sure. There isn't a minute in the day that your time isn't coveted. So you make do, you make it work. I already asked for forgiveness from the driver, so we're good to go.
That's awesome. So let's just level set for the audience. Tell us about North Seattle College. What do you guys do and how do you do it?
Well, North Seattle College is a community college that offers 4-year degree programs in North Seattle. For the 21-22 year, we had about 6,700 students. We have 6 baccalaureate degree programs that are very successful. And Ike has one of the most beautiful campuses. We are surrounded by wetlands. And even though our campus was built in 1970, the wetlands and the beautiful artwork that the students have done has really made the college shine. So that's North Seattle College. And we are linked to the Northgate Light Rail Station by the John Lewis Memorial Bridge, which was recently featured in a Community College Daily article.
Wow.
So we're really proud of that.
You should be. So, one really interesting factoid about you, Chemene, as I was doing just a tad bit of research, is your dissertation. And I think it kind of comes full circle around the work that you're doing. And your dissertation was around 2-year community colleges offering 4-year bachelor's degrees, which comes with various opinions and
absolutely.
Widespread disagreement on that. Can you talk about that a little bit? The 4-year degree at a 2-year community college. What did your study show? Give us the highlights, because I think that's a really important point that comes up all the time here.
It does. The development of 4-year degree programs at community colleges, particularly dissertation was the Nevada System of Higher Education, but at the time, there wasn't much information out there on the development of these programs and how it all works. Many people assume that you just decide to offer a 4-year degree program get it accredited, and you're good to go, when there's so much more work that goes into it. Community colleges have a unique ability to connect with the community and connect with students. And we are excellent when it comes to providing workforce programs and programs in different modalities where working students can get into the program, they see the light at the end of the tunnel, and they can get out. They're not there to, as I say, sometimes hang out with us for years or whatever else. And they get a good quality education, not to mention for much, much less than they would at a traditional university. But what people don't understand is that we do not compete with the universities. There is a process as part of the accreditation process and the approval process for most states where we have to come to some level of solidarity or agreement with the surrounding colleges to make sure we're not stepping all over each other.
True.
Right. And so every community college that offers four-year degree programs, particularly here in Washington and in Nevada and previously in Florida, they had to, send letters out, seek, some kind of approval, give notification that they plan to offer this program. And typically it's a program that is not offered by a four-year college. However, North Seattle College, just in partnership with Amazon, started a computer science program. So it's going to be our first baccalaureate of science degree, I should say, in computer science. Right. And even though it is offered by the EdUp, meaning a computer science degree and BS in computer science, we came to an agreement that the workforce needs are so great that they really welcomed us offering this program. And in partnership with Amazon, we were good to go. So this fall, we started our first BS degree in computer science, and we're really proud of that program. And the interest has been great. It was a natural progression for us because we had a computer science program, 2-year degree, as well as an app development program. And so this was it was just easy for us to move into the BS degree space. So there's a lot that goes into 2-year colleges offering 4-year degrees. And it isn't done on a whim. There's a lot of work and a lot of agreements that are made.
Yeah, I think it's an important note to what you said, that you have to carve out a space, right? If you have to work with your surrounding community and other colleges, there is a bit there of work to do with the accreditor and so on. Not everybody, it's not the Wild West,
Absolutely.
That's a great point. Violet, you want to jump in?
Absolutely, yes. So something stood out, Dr. Crawford. So I went to got an associate's degree from a community college. Then went to get my bachelor's at ASU. So different, right? Because back in my day, there was no 4-year community college, no bachelor's being offered at a community college. And I love that when I went to North Seattle's college's enroll now page, I saw all different student types, your first time, your prior college, international, ESL, continuing education. So as a first generation college student, I was a working student raising a son. I guess, what do you think schools can do in order to revamp their current processes and keep up with those inevitable changes that might be affecting their students to continue and complete their education? I mean, that's a solution already, what you're talking about with the baccalaureate, degree at the community college level. But any tips that you could maybe give out to your colleagues out there that could be listening?
Oh, absolutely. One thing that many community colleges are doing now, and I'm getting out of the car, so you may hear the noise.
Multitasking.
We are looking at supporting students holistically. Thank you so much. Meeting students where they are. And part of that is exactly what you're talking about. Having, childcare available, having resources available, not assuming that every student is right out of high school. You've probably looked on our site and noticed that our median age at North Seattle College is about 29, 30, 31 years old. So most of our students aren't fresh out of high school, even though we have several students who are fresh out of high school. So what that told us was, and what it tells many community colleges, is that we need to look at the modality, right, of our coursework. And, do we do hybrid? Is it all online? Is it, excuse me, face-to-face predominantly? Are the programs taught in other languages? Things like that are so important for us to look at. So community colleges need to do a constant reevaluation of who their students are, who our students are, and what are their needs, and try to meet the students where they are. Tutoring is important. Student success programs, support, mental health support. That is huge for many students. And it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with it. We just emerged from a pandemic and everybody's trying to figure out how to do this, right?
Right.
Emotionally. And so many community colleges are working to meet students where they are. And that's what we mean when we say that. So when we offer these programs, especially our baccalaureate degree programs, and it's one of the reasons why North's programs are so successful, is that we look at the modality, right? We look at, should it be hybrid? Should it be all online? Should there be in-person meetings? If so, when? What does our community need? So we're responding to them. We're not making them mold to us, right? So that's the meeting them where they are piece.
Chemene, by the way, before you ask another question, Violet, we don't need to be on camera. So if you want to pocket that phone so you can move around, that might make it easier for you. That's totally up to
I'm going to sit in the lobby. That's right. We are on a podcast. Thank you.
We'd love to see your beautiful face, but
that poor guy. Oh, thank you. That poor guy. He's like, please don't show the inside of my car.
You do what you gotta do.
Exactly. We make it work. That's for sure.
That's right.
But another part of that is keeping costs down, and I think that's why many students choose community colleges because, the cost is so much better. Right, exactly. And that matters to people. Yes, there's financial aid available. Absolutely. But, that only goes so far. In my day, and I'm dating myself, but, I could kind of live off of financial aid and go to school full time, but those days are gone, especially for people with families. So the financial aid helps to pay, some of the expenses, the books, the tuition and all of that, but many of our students have to work.
Right. Cup ramen will only take you so far, right?
That's exactly right. And they should not have to choose. They should not have to choose between their future and their future earning potential and building generational wealth because we don't adapt or we don't have something that fits into their schedule or we don't have an advisor that can show them how college can fit into their lifestyle, right?
You know that the world of higher education is experiencing evolutions and revolutions. You want to be part of the progress. Commencement, the beginning of a new era in higher education with insights from more than 100 college and university presidents, will show you how. Get your copy of Commencement, the beginning of a new era in higher education now on Amazon right away. We think you're going to love it. It's
amazing.
Would you say that most schools, including yours, if I'm a student, I want to hit on mental health assistance because it is a topic that's being, we speak about it openly now, as where when I was in school, it wasn't. And would you say that a student knows that they can pick up the phone and call the school and get some sort of assistance at most colleges, especially because, if that piece can be taken care of, maybe they can continue their education or know when to start it up again.
Yeah, absolutely. Every college I've worked for, and I've worked in Washington, in Texas, and Nevada, and California, they have always had some semblance of mental health support for students. And the information is out there, but you're absolutely right. It was just a thing that people didn't talk about, and the assumption was, well, let them go to their own private therapist or let them go. But the reality is that when individuals have mental health issues, they can be associated with their personal life, but they can also be associated with how they function in an academic environment. Mm-hmm. People don't realize that there is a level of anxiety added, to individuals who are, let's say, taking final exams next week or taking midterms. Or, I can tell you, when I was a vice president of student services and enrollment management, every semester I had just a bunch of nursing students in my office. And nursing is a high energy, high stress area. And those nurses are sharp, but they're under a lot of stress because they're doing clinicals as well. And they would just come into my office and they're like, okay, we're having a meltdown. We need to have a conversation. And so we started having actual sessions for them, around midterms and around finals, especially when they were about to graduate and were about to take their tests, their state exams. Oh my goodness. There was a lot. Yeah, it was a lot.
When they take the NCLEX, a nursing student generally has a meltdown before that.
Yeah. So and it doesn't matter how smart they are, it's just the pressure. So we would have some of our LPCs, our licensed professional counselors, go in and have sessions for them voluntarily, totally voluntary. Nobody is making them do it, but they really appreciated that. That's because it's not taboo anymore. It doesn't mean because you're stressed around midterms that there's something wrong with you. No, midterms can be stressful, just like final exams can be stressful when you've worked so hard and there's a lot on the line. So mental health support is so much more accepted nowadays than it used to be, for sure.
Chemene, you have run the gamut of higher ed positions. You've been in enrollment and student services and the academic function. What do you think about presidents today? Right? I don't know if you know this, you probably don't. So I just wrote a book called Commencement, The Beginning of a New Era in Higher Education, along with the co-author. And we profiled the first 125 presidents we interviewed on this podcast. And one of the most common themes out of that was there's just no blueprint, especially because of the pandemic, right?
Right.
But now, even outside of that, we're dealing with a myriad of issues: financial struggles, we got that declining birth rates, you have the enrollment cliff coming, but then you have this upside down financial model where sometimes we're overbuilt academically, but it's hard to make changes because they're several years out, even sunsetting a program. How do you operate with effectiveness? What's the secret is what I'm asking you to give away.
Well, I don't know if there is an actual secret, but it's interesting you would bring that up. My master's research project was a study of chief executive officers in the California community college system.
What?
So I surveyed all of the presidents of community colleges at the time, as well as the chancellors. And these are the very questions that I asked them. I replicated a study by Dr. George Vaughn. He did this for AACC many, many years ago, the American Association of Community Colleges, many years ago. And so I called him up and I said, hey, can I tweak and replicate your study for my master's research? And he's like, absolutely, it needs to be updated. And so I did it for the California community colleges. And back then, the stressors for presidents were family and the balancing act, the so-called life-work balance and all of these things. And back then, the pathway to the presidency was through instruction. So you had most of your presidents, particularly in California, who were either vice presidents of instruction. They used to be faculty members, full-time, those kinds of things. But we've seen a shift. The research indicates that we are finding more presidents at colleges, not just community colleges, who don't necessarily come through the academic line within higher education. There are, high-profile universities who are hiring, business professionals to run colleges, and one would argue that's a whole other conversation. Is a student our customer? And can we run colleges like a business? And I would say yes and no. But, that's another podcast. But the reality is that a few things are still happening. You still have to try to find some work-life balance if there is such a thing.
Yes.
And we also need to recognize that, and this came out in my study, gosh, when did I do that? It was a minute ago. I think it was in the 90s or something. Anyway, but one thing that came out was that sometimes we can stay too long in these positions. And I know you've probably read a lot about that. Presidents need to constantly evaluate and reevaluate, their effectiveness, and their relationship to the college community. There are some presidents who have been presidents of their colleges for 20 years. I know a couple of them. There are some presidents who have done 10 and said, I either need to move on or, I'm done. But the reality is that the days are gone when we see presidents hanging out at the same place, and I'm saying hanging out, working at the same place 10 years, 15 years, 20 years as president. So, that's a huge change. People are making different decisions about their lives. Higher education has become so much more than this little pocket of the world that not many people want to look at or engage in because it's what's happening over there. I mean, you have the Gates Foundation, involved in student success. You have the Amazons, you have Google, you have these monolith organizations who are recognizing that the future of higher ed is partnerships, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we are creating the workforce. And at the same time, we're trying to help individuals, particularly, BIPOC individuals, build generational wealth, because it's just not something that we put together, higher ed, generational wealth, partnership, monolith, as far as the private sector is concerned, that kind of thing. But that's the future. So to say that you have to find work-life balance is literally just, how could I say it? It's minimalizing the realities of the work. And also colleagues help. Presidents need other presidential colleagues. I have mentors. I have a group of individuals that I can just call up and say, tell me what you think about this. Is it me? One of those kinds of things. You have to have that. You have to have that in this role. And also, make sure, and again, one would argue this, but make sure your credentials are in order. And I recommend that all presidents, regardless of where they come from, they need to be in the classroom. They need to teach courses. They need to see the college that they're running, and they need to see higher ed from a student's perspective. So I still teach. Yeah, I still teach. And I still teach for the University of North Texas at Dallas. And even though I'm no longer in Dallas, they're like, please stay with us. My classes are always packed. They go very well. But I learned so much from those students. And I have taught since the 90s. I taught at community college, online, face-to-face, you name it. And I learned so much. And it helps me in my administrative role understand what students are facing and what their concerns are. And I think that's probably one of the biggest recommendations I could make to my colleagues. You got to get out there in the classroom, even if it's once a year, once an academic year, teach a course.
Nice.
Before I hand it to you, Violet, I just want to add in a little tidbit from the book. That when we surveyed folks, Chemene, that college presidents and others, 45% of the people that we surveyed said that they're actively seeking a merger or acquisition. And that kind of goes along with your whole partnership vibe that you were talking about. Do you find that stat high or low based on what you see out there with your colleagues?
No, I think it's right on point. Because, and I would say that if you ask the same question in another 2 years, that percentage would be higher. One thing we're facing in higher ed is that we're not funded the way we used to be. Back in the day, you could expect, I think I worked at a college years ago where 80% of our funding came from the state. And I think now, yeah, right. I think now maybe half. for that institution, half of their resources come from the state. There are some states in this union, I want to say like Arizona, I think Arizona doesn't get, the school system doesn't get a whole lot, meaning the higher ed system doesn't get a whole lot from the state. And so they have to actively, collect tuition and have partnerships and all of that. So every state is different, but we're seeing a slow decline in state funding for particularly community colleges. So that's why I'm that person running around. Partnerships are the future, right?
Literally, you're literally running around.
Exactly, literally, because it's good. Think about it. If we have partnerships with, let's say, the Amazons and the Googles, and like we have at North Salem College, we have an Amazon partnership in computer science. Now, no one's saying that all of the students who graduate will go work for Amazon, but it's a great investment in the future of the organization. If we are working with them on curriculum and internships and really teaching students the real world of computer science and practical work. In other words, you're going to touch this in the classroom, and when you get into the workforce, you'll be able to identify it and touch it there as well. That is a win-win. It's a win-win for organizations, it's a win-win for the college, and it is definitely a win for the students.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's why I say partnerships of the future. It doesn't have to be STEM. It could be anything. I mean, it could be culinary. It could be nursing. I've worked at colleges that had partnerships with local hospitals to train nurses.
Nice.
And so again, that's the future. So in a couple of years, I think that stat's going to be a little higher for sure.
All right, Violet, you get to keep going until the episode's done now.
Nice. Dr. Crawford, I'm so glad. So maybe I know the answer, but I'm gonna, you spoke to partnerships, but segueing into diversity, equity, and inclusion, seeing as you've interviewed presidents, school leadership, earlier you mentioned workforce program for your students. Do you think that employers and schools can do more, to look genuinely through the lens of, DEI and effectively either create new strategies that allow folks of all backgrounds to get opportunities that otherwise might not have? Again, partnership seems like the answer, but is there anything else, any other tips that these schools can be more effective, and employers, regarding this conversation?
Oh, there's no question. One of the things that I constantly harp on as president, and that I always have, is that if we're truly invested in education and invested in students and invested in our community, and if we want to have economic impact in our community, we need to have college campuses that are welcoming to the community. A student should be able to step onto campus and feel as though they can be successful in that environment, right? And environment is huge for many students who may not have otherwise gone to college. Also recognize some of the challenges, and we talked about that earlier, some of the challenges that many of these students face. Recognize that. Don't assume that when they step across that threshold into your classroom, there's music playing and the world becomes wonderful, and when they step out, it doesn't matter what happens. Because that's an epic fail for an institution to assume that. Students, no matter what age, have life issues, right? And so, adapting to that, recognizing that is huge. And also, students need to see themselves in their instructors, in their deans, in college administration. I will never forget this. Years ago, when I first became a dean of student affairs, I had a woman of color come in, and it was for a totally different reason. She had some difficulties in a class or something. And when she walked into my office and I introduced myself as the dean of student affairs, she froze in place and became visibly nervous. And I thought, what is happening here? And so, as we got into the conversation, she told me, she says, I have to tell you, she said, I apologize. She says, I have never in my life met an African-American female dean.
Mm.
And she was my age, right?
Oh, wow.
And
I was going to hit a sound effect,
literally,
but I didn't know whether to hit the yikes or the amazing button. I wasn't sure which one to hit, just to let you know, because it's awesome
Yikes.
and not awesome at the same time, right?
Yeah, right.
That story.
Yeah.
right. And you know, I had to mute because I had noise coming in, but you're right. It made me sad, but then at the same time, I thought, well, I'm glad you're here. Matter of fact, I told her, I said, well, you know what? I'm glad you're here. And I said, you know, stop by anytime. If you just want to talk, because she was a reentry student, you know, she had raised a family. She had, you know, some work skills, obviously, but she came to college or came back to college to upgrade, right? Her skills. And she didn't see anybody that looked like her. And she, you know, just felt the same way. So it was a moment for me, and I'm not oblivious to these issues, but that one was kind of a smack in the forehead. I was like, oh my gosh. You know, and it was actually a moment, like a reaffirmation moment. It's like, you know what, you've been on the right track for a while and you need to stay on this because there are many more people like her out there.
Right. Right. And it's lovely to see someone that looks like you, someone I can relate to in your role, in all of the different roles you've been in. It is inspiring for someone who might be on that same path.
And you know, you don't have to be a college president to make that impression on a student. Let's say, let's go back to computer science. You know, years and years ago, when I first started college, I was a computer science major. And I had some family issues. My mom died of breast cancer, and I had to drop out of school and all of that. But before I dropped out of school, I was told by a dean that he wasn't surprised that I was dropping out because persons of my ethnicity weren't acclimated to computer science.
That's a yikes button, Joe.
Yes, that was, and yeah,
that was
and
a 5 times
like,
yikes button.
Right, exactly. But now, obviously, you know, I probably had the last laugh, but imagine if I did not, you know, if I had not persisted, if I had been a student who really wasn't sure, right? I had the ability, I was obviously smart enough, they admitted me to the program, but if I had allowed that person to discourage me, what would have happened? And how many other students who look like me had he discouraged? Right? And being a female on top of that, and back in the day, you know, STEM wasn't real popular for females. Right. So there was the double punch there, right? So, you know, we have to make sure that those kinds of things are not happening to people. Open the doors, let people in, let them work to their potential, help them reach their potential. You know, regardless of what they look like and where they come from. I'm a firm believer that everyone can learn. We know that everyone can learn. So why should I limit them based on, you know, language, what they look like, where they come from, you know, all of these things. And again, they need to look around and see people who look like them so that they can ease into the environment.
Lovely. Amazing. Thank you.
Violet, you have any more questions before we give her a chance to close out and go wherever she's going?
Oh my goodness. Yes. Okay. Based on, I saw, checked out your LinkedIn, Chemene. So I saw a list too long to list here of your different perspectives, your roles in higher education. I guess, if I could get a good answer, a short answer for this, being in all those positions and, you've interviewed a lot of people, you've met a lot of people. What's the best revelation you've had about yourself and about others that I guess, could help folks in education or just, in their careers, because I do understand it's crucial for you to know yourself and for you to know others in order to make an impact on your profession.
That is a great question. Thank you. And, we hear this, and she said a short answer. I caught that. She gave a good answer, short answer. You know how we've heard the phrase, is it physician know thyself or something like that?
Knowing thyself, right.
Knowing that, yeah. The same thing, the same thing applies to individuals in higher ed to do this work. You are going to see people from all walks of life in different circumstances. You cannot place yourself above or below those persons. You just have to lean in and be willing to help. And you had better know yourself, because the bureaucracy around you, the politics around you, especially because you're president, they could chip away at you if you let it. But if you stay focused on why you're doing what you're doing, and know that the work you're doing is good, and surround yourself with people who support you, not only your leadership teams, but personal mentors and friends who can be that person you call when you have a question, or one of those "is it me" moments, right? That's critical, and that's where the longevity kicks in. And for a last piece on that, know when to go. Know when your energy is spent. We in higher ed think that we underestimate our expertise, right? We underestimate the depth and the breadth of our experience. And we don't recognize that there are so many fields that we could step into that are not higher ed related. But we've got the skill set to do these things. So if higher ed is no longer for you, and you're exhausted, and you're tapped out or whatever else, just know when to step away. Just know when to step away. I've seen so many colleagues who had to be told to step away versus knowing when to step away. And for whatever reason, they didn't know when to make that move, and that's a personal choice. But that's so important, and make sure to stay focused on students, because with all the politics and bureaucracy that surrounds many organizations, you could get, you could just get sidelined, and that's not what we're here for. We're here for students.
Know when to hold them, know when to fold them, I think is what you said. But by the way, I've come in some breaking news. Hold tight.
Breaking news.
Dr. Chemene Crawford is late for her flight now. That's what they told me to tell you. No, you're okay. We're going to give you the final two questions, Chemene, and let you take off. Number one, what did we not say, or what would you like to say about North Seattle College and your work there? Anything at all, plug away about what's going on. And number two, what do you see as the future of higher education?
Oh, wow. We already touched on two, but I'll reiterate. Number one, North Seattle College is a good place. It's a neighborhood community college that is blossoming. It used to be a well-kept secret, and now, we're connected to a major light rail station. We have a wonderful bridge named after a wonderful civil rights leader that people can easily come and go to campus. We have very successful baccalaureate degree programs. We are creating an even more beautiful campus and embracing the wetlands around us. We are leaning into this new environment, and we're working hard to meet students where they are. So I really feel like it's a good place. We have some solid faculty, some outstanding faculty. We have great leadership at the college as well. And we're trying to learn, right? What is this new environment we're in? What is it that the students or prospective students need from us? And we're pivoting, right? We're leaning in and we're pivoting as well. And so I'm particularly proud of that. And those things, as you know, are painful. Change is painful for anyone, whether private sector, public sector, but change is different. Change is stressful for some people. And so, I commend the college for really learning to pivot and to lean in, because we all care about students at the end of the day. That I can say for sure about North. And secondly, the future of higher ed, here I go with my flag running around the room, it's partnerships. Presidents like myself need to be out there garnering partnerships that will benefit their students, so the students can then complete a quality educational program and be able to step into the workforce with confidence, so that they can, as I say, feed their families, take care of themselves, build generational wealth, and have the life that so many of us want. So that's my answer, and I'm sticking to it.
You can't stick to it. You're the boss here. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I first want to thank my special guest co-host. I'm going to say her name right. Here she is, ladies and gentlemen, Violeta Tamayo. She's Senior Account Executive at Lead Squared. Did I get it right, Violet?
You got it so right. You got it.
All right. Well, I don't know about Douglas now. I feel like we're going to have to talk to him about, we'll see where he ends up after your great showing today.
We'll have to reevaluate his co-hosting.
Right. And ladies and gentlemen, the amazing, the truly incredible, magnificent Dr. Chemene Crawford. She's president and CEO, North Seattle College. Chemene, it has been an absolute honor to host you today. How did you feel about your EdUp experience?
I think it was great. I really appreciated your questions. I hope my quirkiness, my quirky voice doesn't throw everything off, but I appreciate your flexibility and taking that ride with me.
We're all about taking the ride. I
just really appreciate the opportunity to share about North Seattle College and to talk a little bit about the future of higher education. So I really appreciate you both. It's nice to meet you. I would love to hear the podcast before you actually post it, but I know that's probably not possible. But,
I'll give it a good, solid listen, I promise you.
Oh, great.
I will tell you that we want you to fly safe, and thank you for making us, fitting us in your busy schedule, literally moving through an airport. We appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thanks for doing these podcasts on higher education. We can't talk about higher ed enough. People need to know there's some great things happening out here.
Ooh, love that. Ladies and gentlemen, you've just EdUp'd. It's time to
level up.
The beginning of a new era in higher education begins with you. Order your copy of Commencement, The Beginning of a New Era in Higher Education by Kate Colbert, Dr. Joseph Lucio, with contributions by Elvin Freitas. It's higher education's must-read book of 2022. Discover how you can seize the moment to change higher education forever. Commencement, The Beginning of a New Era in Higher Education, now available on Amazon. For bulk orders, contact Kate, Joe, or Elvin.